Hello everyone, welcome to the Currency of Anarchy. I'm Josh Davis. This is a libertarian anarchist show. This is no longer the Currency of Democracy. This is the difference, or let me start with the name of the show here. The Currency of Anarchy stems from the Currency of Democracy. Information is the currency of democracy according to Thomas Jefferson or whoever. Because apparently that's up in the air too. But the idea is to share ideas here, to try to spout some logic into the discussion of liberty and anarchy here. Basically what I want to say is that the purpose of anarchy is to be the most moral society we can and be the most natural society we can, and respecting others. What I want to show is that it's not enough to want the end goal. It's necessary to say why we want that end goal. What's the logic behind it? What do we say when we don't want any rules? Or we don't want any rulers. We don't want any rulers because they keep on just pounding new rules out all the time, and they're illegitimate, all of them. The only true rules is the real rule of law, not legislation. The rule of law. The law of nature, the law of our inner selves. So that's where I'm coming from. But I want to talk about life, liberty, and property. Why it's true that these things exist. Obviously, we all have life, plants, animals, whatever. But where does liberty come from? It stems from life, but in our case, as animals, we have our own ideas, and they come from our sentience, our sentience, however you want to pronounce it. These ideas are inside our body, and we know that our ideas are our own, and they cannot be controlled without the use of force from others. We know that much, at least, and I should believe that we cannot have liberty without knowing ourselves, without knowing our own ideas are our own. They may be illogical, but they're our own. Once we can prove the logical fallacies of each of these ideas, or the logical truthness of these ideas, then we can progress as a more harmonious society, as it were. Anyway, but so through life come our ideas. I mean, it's up here. There's nowhere else it's ever going to be except through exchange. And then, so the ideas are within our body, and our body is our property, and the ideas are our property. Each of these things, my life, my ideas, my body, are my property. And so through that come our rights. It's not that our rights come from our life, or our rights come from the land, or they're just subjective. No, because the very word subjective means that we would be subject to someone else. So we have our rights through ourselves. So these are either deemed property rights, or the right to life, or negative rights. Any of these terms are all correct. But when you say that the rights are subjective, that means that the state was right all along. So our rights are not granted to us. They are us. Our rights are part of us, and they always were. So I, for one, I guess I keep on going over this point for those who have been keeping up with me before this video. I value work because it is a part of me. My work is my labor is... Okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm exchanging ideas, and to me it's a form of work. It's really not, because it's just a conversation. But in any case, I could consider this work. It's also a passion of mine. But anyway, through work we're able to trade. So I'm talking through compassion. This is my ideas. I'm freely flowing it or throwing it at you, whatever you want to say. So this is a trade. Whether you're paying me or not, it doesn't matter. This is for well, it's for liberty, but it is a kind of work, and it is a kind of trade. It's more like a gift in this case, I suppose. But so in any case, what I'm saying is work is valuable in that we can put an amount of time to it, and then in that I could you know, value it with currency, and we could trade that way. So I'm freely throwing this idea stuff at you right now, and telling me what to say and what to think is a problem. So I've been having a conversation with a new friend of mine, and we came up with this point where if someone were to call anyone a name, he has no right to therefore kill that person. So, you know, I go up to you and I'm calling you names and all this other crap, and you don't like it. So be it, you don't like it, obviously, right? But that gives you no right to kill me. What I was doing was exchanging my ideas, and therefore, and in a sense, you were coerced to listen to it. I could make an argument for that, but there was no real property traded or forced upon. No labor, no nothing like that. So, in my opinion, and I believe in any society, shooting that person for that kind of transgression is over the top and considered murder. And that would go in any society. I don't care, well, except for a state, I suppose, because if a cop were to do that, you know, everyone's gonna try to back up the cop. But anybody else, any free individual, that would be murder. But that's what the state does, is they try to manipulate what is said. You know, book burning is theoretically a thing of the past, but this happens a lot. You know, censoring, this can only really come through the state. If I were to post something on Facebook and Facebook deems this offensive or whatever, they have the right to get that material off of their site because it's their property. It wasn't my property once I post it to Facebook. If I were to make a video and make my own website, that would be my own property, and nobody would be able to tell me what to do with it. because this is my property. It comes from myself. That is it. And I make a contract with the web host, and that's the end of it, because that's my property. That's the end of that. So there is a difference between private and public sector, and I don't like to use those terms either, because the public sector is a fiction. Communism is a fiction. Yeah, so land cannot be communal. Some people believe that the earth is all of ours and it should be shared. Yes, it should, absolutely. But how are we going to logically do that? Are we going to have a use of force? A small group of people tell us what we can and can't do with that land. And I feel like some people are skipping over this step. There will be a use of force in any form of communism. And that's the moral problem. Land cannot be communal. Let me talk about how corporations are formed. They create a new person. And the question is, who creates this person? It wasn't by birth. This person just comes out of the middle of nowhere. So we have a corporation that's built, and directors. Okay, a corporation is basically a trust. That's all it is. But so that person, the corporation, benefits and is the beneficiary, that it appoints directors. It could never appoint a director. There's the logical fallacy. It has no voice, therefore it needs directors to be the voice. And it could never appoint directors because it had no voice. So the person, it's a joke. So, but that's how a government is created. It is a corporation, and in a commune, it splits up. It zones property. It grants property. No, it can't, though. It's impossible. So there can be no land held in commune in anarchy. It can't even be done right now, but it's done through fear and confusion, a lack of understanding. So anyway, people can own land, and land cannot own people. If the land owned us, it would be able to direct us to do things, or someone would have appointed, or it would have appointed directors to carry out its will, because the directors would then employ trustees, and we would in effect be trustees to the land. And it did not appoint directors. It can't direct anything. It has no voice. It isn't able to make anything. The land is an object. So therefore, yes, we can use it to create property. We can make it our property. The question is, in an anarchist society, how would that look? We don't know. And that's not the problem. The problem is the moral ambiguity and the illogical fallacy of land ownership, or land owning us. We can own it because we can, benefit from owning land, and we can direct ourselves to perform actions on the land. So I guess I am missing one other thing. I want to make clear that I know that animals and plants have rights through life. Animals are a little more sentient than plants in that it has thoughts, and it can act upon the land in more ways than plants. We are a type of animal, so therefore, through classification, I can basically say that animals definitely have rights. Plants, it's a little harder to prove, but it does have its own body. It does have its own property. It sits upon the land, therefore it has rights. That's why we have to respect plants and animals. I'm not denying our right to eat. I am proving that we must respect animals and plants. And all of this comes down to a matter of respect. But this is why communism is a fallacy, because the rights come from them, the animals and plants, and we're a type of animal. So communism is a fake, if you get the reference in Star Trek. It's a fake! Alright. Anyway, so a few more things. I guess this will be a short show. It's the intro, I suppose. I want to go over abortion, bringing up some ideas from the statist mindset, I suppose. But this is a no-brainer for the most part. There's a little ambiguity, but not by much. I'm pro-life, but through pro-life, I am pro-choice. Watch. I am pro-life, and so that means, for the most part, in this case, I'll explain, but for the most part, I am pro-life. You have a responsibility to understand what's going on with your own body. This is your property. You should know what you're getting yourself into when you have sex. If you do not protect yourself in the correct capacity, or if you don't abstain from sex, then the responsibility lies upon you. The consequences of your actions are yours. And this is why promises are made between individuals to marry, because they know that they need to know what they're getting themselves into. It's so important to understand the morality of maybe 100 years ago. It wasn't even all that long ago, honestly. This is morality. This is integrity. This is logic. If you're not responsible for yourself, then how can you have a good reputation? And so abortion is immoral in that you will be killing someone. But it is not immoral to abort when you are dealing with a rape situation, because that's a violation of your body. That's a violation of your rights. It was done with coercion or the other use of force. So it's null. It's void. Get rid of the baby if you need to. Absolutely. But I am also making sure we're talking about only through life can we have liberty. So we must protect life, and we must understand responsibility. It's the only way to get to anarchy is to understand ourselves, life, and our ideas, and then our body, and then our property, and our rights. Alright, so this is basically toward the end of the show. I want to just touch upon quickly the idea of this humanitarian versus brutalist crap. I got suckered into it for about 3 days. Thank God that was it. Or maybe a little bit longer. But I believe that Jeff Tucker was sort of right, and the brutalists are kind of right, but basically what you want in Jeff's defense, you want to be in a beacon of light. You don't want to force people away from you, because then it kills the anarchist movement. But at the same time, you should be able to say what you want. But this is when, the brutalist movement was going wrong, causing fear on both sides of the debate, like fear, or at least whatever. Basically, it's fear versus the beacon of light. I choose to be the beacon of light, and I don't want to scare people away. If you have to be brutally honest at times, that's a good thing. But the moment you start getting into a fear factor is when you start the state again. And you don't want to recreate the state within the liberty movement. That's not what we're trying to do here. I'm not trying to cause an argument here. I'm trying to... I hope that people are open to see that Jeff was kind of wrong, and the brutalists are kind of wrong as well. Because Jeff was just basically using a preference, and I don't want to, be like him. I wear t-shirts every day. I don't want to wear a bow tie. I mean, it looks kind of cool on him, but that's not the kind of guy I am, and I'm sure most of us aren't. But what we're trying to do at the same time is not use fear. So it's a matter of respect in both cases. They're both kind of right and they're both kind of wrong. That's where I'm coming from. Anyway, but the whole basis of all of this is to not just convert people from a statist mindset to libertarianism. I want to go further than that. I want to make sure that people understand that the state is completely immoral. It's the initiation of the use of force, as Stefan Molyneux would say. It is about morality. He's absolutely right. And there has to be a logical progression with all of this. Because without life, there's no liberty. In that, if everyone's dead, then there's obviously no liberty. We don't say there's liberty on Jupiter. Ooh, that looks like a great place to live. You know what I mean? But without liberty, there's no life. So if we don't have the freedom to exchange ideas and exchange property, that's no life. That's just existence. And I don't want to exist as a slave. So that's what all of this is about. This is logic. This is more than an action. And we don't want to be considered chaotic people. We want to be considered logical people. We want to be considered, hey, yeah, I don't want to listen to your rules. I want rules, but those of nature, those that make sense, those that are innate in us. Because, and it doesn't matter what anarchy actually will look like. We don't know what it actually will look like. What we know is that the state is immoral. What we know is we exist, but we don't have liberty. And that's because we're in a collectivist society. We don't want that. Anyway, I hope this made a lot of sense to you guys. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave it in the description here. And yeah, like this, share it, please. We need to open up this conversation. I hope it reaches plenty of people and we get somewhere with it. We need to convert some people here. All right, take care.